Hey everyone, my name is Emelia Hartford. This is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
Well, Amelia, it is wonderful to have you on the program. I have to say, you're our first YouTuber that we've had
Wow.
in 7 or 8 months of doing this program. Welcome to the SiriusXM audience, and it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so stoked we were able to make this all work and put this together.
Well, and personally, you're also the first person to use the word "stoked" on the program, so we'll just
There's a lot
continue
of
with that.
firsts going on. I
There's
love
a
it.
lot of firsts. Let's talk about the project. You're always involved in interesting projects, and for the listeners who
Thank
might
you.
not know, we're going to get into some of it. But I want you to tell me what you're working on these days. What is in the Emelia Hartford garage that has got you very interested?
Ooh, I mean, I can't not say my C8 Corvette.
Of course.
She's my pride and joy. She's kind of I've been YouTubing building and racing cars now for 6 years. And really the past couple years with the C8 platform is really what I felt helped propelled me to another level with what we've been able to do with the car. So I just, I'm a big Chevy girl and I'm probably one of the largest advocates for the C8 chassis platform. And I would say that's probably my bread and butter, my pride and joy as of right now. I do have some builds that I haven't announced yet coming out this year. I did recently start the wide body kit on a 458.
Yes,
Hate
you
me if
did.
you want. I'm very not sorry I cut those fenders, but it's for the end goal that I'm really excited for. I guess I'll just run down real quick what's in my garage, if
Sure.
that's all right. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have a 79 Buick Regal twin turbo 4.8 stroker. I have an LS swapped uh, S14, a Nissan 240SX. I have a Subaru 2000 Impreza, GM8. It's the coupe with a built EJ207 that was shipped from Japan. I have the C8 Corvette, of course. I have a Mustang I bought that I have some plans with that. I have a 2007 Toyota Prius that
Oh,
we
that one
would
we're going to get to. That one we're going to get to. Yeah.
it that one was a subscriber build. I was kind of commuting around town with the Prius after my Subaru and my LS240 not necessarily being the best commuter, especially without AC and just straight piped. So you can imagine. And I ended up putting a eBay Turbo K Series engine in the Prius. So
Which will
not
deceive anybody at a stoplight.
it is the biggest sleeper in the world, and we muffled the exhaust so well that it is almost silent until you step on it.
That's
And
the car I want to ride in. That's the car.
no, you don't. It's sketchy. The throttle pedal is literally a rod coming out the ground, and the clutch pedal's coming out the floorboard because we couldn't find a way to mount it against the firewall.
It's like
Yeah,
4 or 5 inches away from the other brake pedal too, isn't it?
none of it makes sense. Oh, the brakes don't work very well either. As a heads up, apparently they're hybrid assisted, and once you remove that system, I hope you have a strong foot, strong leg. And I know there's other projects that I'm sure are escaping my mind right now, but oops, that's kind of the gist of it.
It's incredible. I mean,
Thank
when
you.
you think about the fact that it's been now 5 years, right, since the
Yeah.
launch, and you think about how much your following has grown. What are your YouTube subscribers like now? What are your numbers as of today?
Subscriber wise, I am at about 810,000. I average about a quarter million views an episode. And then of
Only.
course I'm very thankful for the audience base that I've been able to build, who's been along with me on this journey for as long as it's been.
Could you ever have imagined this?
No, 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 no. I mean, growing up, this YouTube wasn't even a career, you know,
Yeah, it wasn't
and
something in the guidance class, was it?
it wasn't an elective in school. So I took woodworking and ceramics and all that, but yeah,
So
not YouTube.
yeah, so how did it all happen? Tell me how it all happened.
So growing up, I appreciated cars. I thought they were cool to me. Um, you know, my dad passed when I was young. As far as I know, he was never into cars. My brother was into cars. I didn't really have anyone in the family who was into it. Um, reflecting back, my mom always talks about how she used to call me Daredevil and how I could ride my toy Jeep better than my grandpa could. Mind you, he was a little senile, and I don't know why he had a driver's license, but I don't know. I was just like, I love adrenaline. I was kind of an adrenaline junkie, and unfortunately, when my dad passed, it kind of made me realize at a young age that I was going to be on my own. And one of the first major decisions I had to make in life was what car I was going to buy myself, because I needed to get around. I needed to go to work. And I took to the internet because I didn't really have that, figure in my life to tell me what it was I should get. And I ended up on the forums. And of course, the internet's going to tell you that you need something bigger than a 4-cylinder and rear-wheel drive and a manual. And here I am buying my first car, an Infiniti G35, manual, never having driven stick a day in my life.
Really?
Trying to just figure it out as I got home.
How old were you?
I was 16 years old.
And you put the money together to buy the Infiniti?
So I will say, when my father passed, he had started to put aside a little bit of a college fund for me.
Okay.
So I used that fund to buy a car.
Okay. All right. Well, you knew where your passion was, but as you get to the Infiniti and buying the Infiniti, most people think of buying cars as a transportation piece, but
right.
not many have the passion for that. Did you already know that you were passionate about this, or did that come after the purchase?
I really didn't. When I bought the car, I didn't realize that the passion was what it was, and I had no idea it would take me to where I am today. And I followed the advice of the internet of what the forums were saying that I should get. And like, these are race forums, there's people talking about, turbo in their naturally aspirated cars and whatnot. And I just followed the advice of that. And I'm so thankful I did, because I fell in love with driving stick. And I think that's kind of what took me to the next level. Was I wanted to perfect that. I wanted to learn, how can I shift quick? What is a no lift shift? How can I rev match heel toe and really perfect it? And then I wanted to perfect driving. There's so much to it. And then right about that time, my mom told me that we were going to be moving to Indiana. And it was going to be my 4th high school at that time.
Where were you moving from?
From LA, California.
Okay.
And
so Indiana.
Yeah, so I moved
the
to
racing
Indiana.
State of America.
Yes, sir. I loved it. I didn't know what to expect, and I am so glad that it happened, because when people ask where I'm from, I really say Indiana, because that's where I feel like I learned the most about myself. I realized the things that I love in life. I'm just so thankful of that. And at the time, I didn't see it like that. I was like, Mom, I'm not moving out there. Like, how could you
Fourth high school.
uproot us?
Fourth high school. Yeah.
Yeah. And moved out there, ended up meeting the car community. I met who's still one of my best friends to this day, and who was my mentor in the very beginning. His name is Booch. He took me under his wing, and I became a part of a family called B Crew, B for Bloomington, Indiana, and then Crew. And it really helped pull me out of a dark time. So instead of partying on the weekends, we were doing turbo swaps and working on cars. And
you're in Bloomington, which is 45 minutes south of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So were you a racing fan? Did you at the time?
At the time, no. I started building cars before I started racing them.
Okay.
And it wasn't long after that where I started autocrossing the Infiniti and just kind of getting into more of the weekend warrior type things. And yeah, I loved it. I met an awesome community, and I was super thankful for that.
So what did the community allow you to do? You mentioned that you started, doing all kinds of modifications to vehicles, and was it that group that really kind of propelled you into the passionate side of the car industry?
Oh, definitely. It was definitely, without them, I don't think I would have taken that next step to be where I got to today. They, it's Fast and Furious talks about it, it's family. And I felt like at the time I didn't have a family. And not to break my mom's heart if she ever hears this, she's the strongest woman in my life. And without seeing her go back to school to get her master's to help keep a roof over her head because she wasn't making an income, that was so much motivation for me. But, at the same time, she was in school full time. And to have these guys really, again, take me under their wings and show me cars. And I just loved every moment of it. And they were so patient, and they treated me as an equal. And that was something that I'll eternally be grateful for.
you are an obvious. You just have to listen to the roll call of vehicles that you're working on. You become a real expert in the parts and accessories and modifications and things of that nature. Is that what B Crew taught you? Were you all of a sudden wrenching under the hood?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so it was Fast and Furious.
In a way, it was. In a way,
Fast
it
and
was.
Furious in Indiana.
Yeah. At least we thought we were Fast and Furious.
Yeah. How did you get to the notion of the first posting of what you were going to do on YouTube? Take me back to that time. And how old were you?
I oh man, I think when I started on YouTube, I was about 23. I had just moved back to California, and I feel like for the record, I should say I still go back and forth quite often.
Hmm.
And when I was out here, I was pursuing acting. I've always wanted to do acting, and I struggled being able to even turn on the television because I'm like, it would just make me feel guilty that I wasn't doing what I really wanted to be pursuing. So I ended up packing. So quick rundown: the G35 was involved in an accident, a hit and run, not hit and run. I was hit, parked, and I ended up getting a new car, which is now a swap 240 SX, which is what I have today. Packed everything I owned inside that car, drove cross country, got a 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood to pursue the dream of acting. And I spent 6 years, however many years I did, working in a restaurant, not really getting anywhere, doing everything that I needed to do, going to casting workshops, emailing casting directors, cold calling anyone who would just hear me out, who I could pitch and give me an opportunity. I was in every class I was told that I needed to get into. And I was getting tired of working in a restaurant because I got to the point where I was putting in these 12-hour days, and the last restaurant that I was working at required you to wear heels as the uniform, and my back was hurting. I just wasn't happy doing it. And my mom had been telling me for a while, like, honey, why don't you start YouTubing? I'm like, YouTube? What do you know, mom?
Hmm.
And at that time, and stop me if I'm just going off on a tangent.
No, this is great.
At that time, because I was still working on cars, I'd work at the restaurant. I'd put time in acting, and then I would go home and just work on my cars. And I was posting on Instagram, the different things I would be doing. I had my Subaru at the time. I still had the 240, and Michelin Tires and Vice Media had reached out to me because they saw one of my posts, because they were trying to bring awareness to their new PS4S tire launch that they did. And they invited me out there. And while I was out there, I had met what an influencer was, what a YouTuber was in the space. And, the guys that I had met were so kind and so generous. And they showed me what camera I should use if I was going to get into it. And it was definitely very inspiring. And when I got back, I spent, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, every single penny in my bank account to buy this G7X. And I met a guy at a very sketchy gas station by myself. Looking back, I'm like, why didn't I at least bring a friend? But I bought this camera, and since then I just started vlogging what I was doing outside of work hours. And yeah, I haven't really looked back since.
And yeah, and the rest is YouTube history.
Yeah.
Well, and you also, by the way, it's interesting that your mother was the one to push
I
you
know,
to that
right?
space. She must look back on this now and just go, "Well, yeah, I told you so." Emelia.
Yeah, right. Told you so. Should have always listened to me. Mom's always right. All of that.
And you tapped into an enormous, spirit and passion that exists out there, and also something incredibly unique, which is you became a leading female in the car industry online, and
Yeah.
you are one of the leading females in the car industry online. It's got to be remarkable to consider that at this stage.
It's a trip just hearing you say it.
But it's true, and judging by the 810,000 followers on YouTube and the 250,000 views, I mean, these are not small numbers. And while social media influencers are everywhere these days, there are a few with an expertise that you have. So
Thank you.
No, well, you're more than welcome. And so, why do you feel that you resonate?
I resonating with an audience, I think just since day one, I've been very authentic to who I am. And I try to be very genuine, but also relatable. I mean, I think it's a trip for me to hear that I'm one of the leading female in the automotive space because I just, it's me. I'm just going to the garage and working on cars, and I get to do what I love every day. Um, and I think people see that passion that I have and that drive, and they see that I'm constantly, trying to one up myself and what I did last time, and constantly trying to push the boundaries. And, as some people would say, breaking through that glass ceiling and really trying to show, um, the audience that I'm a big believer in if you just work hard for something, you can achieve your goals. And that, luck is actually when hard work meets opportunity, and, putting in 10,000 hours to be an expert and all of that. I'm such a proponent of hard work and, putting those blinders on and just going after whatever it is that you want. And then I talk about that too. And I talk a lot about mental health, and I really try to just, life's hard, and I want to try to provide 20 minutes a couple times a week to have people smile and be involved in this greater family, which now I joke and I say crew because it's the Amelia crew
Gonna
now.
say you've taken the B to the E, right?
Yeah, I have. And yeah, I really, more than anything, just want to try to create this family, this supportive family online where people can talk about their builds and watch a build and be involved in it. About 3-4 weeks ago, I was able to surprise my mom with her dream car.
I
And
saw that.
and then in the video I stopped and I was joking, like, today's video sponsored by, and I was like, you guys at home, because without you watching, I wouldn't be in this position that I am today. And I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful of everyone who watches.
What did that mean to
Yeah.
you? The ability to be able to do that. It had to be everything, given the pathway that you've been on.
I started crying before even giving my mom the key, and she had no idea. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you crying right now? And she doesn't see me cry. Like, I'm a very non-emotional person most of the time. And it meant so much to me. My dream has always been just to, take care of her. So to be able to do that and put her up in a car, all she kept saying was, I never would have been able to afford the salary. And I was just like, I'm so incredibly happy that I'm able to do something for her, that she deserves, that she couldn't do for herself.
Tell the audience about the car that you bought her and why.
My mom's always wanted a Toyota RAV4, so I bought her a brand new one. I made sure she had the heated steering wheel because her hands get cold. Mine do too. Thanks, mom. And the weather pack, and it's all-wheel drive hybrid because she lives in the snow and she wants to be conservative on gas and whatnot. So yeah, I even found it in her favorite color. I recommend everyone watch the video, but a little bit of a spoiler: I had my brother take her out and go test drive a car.
That's right.
About
She thought that it was just a normal test drive until you
yeah.
dropped the keys on her.
Yeah, I was like, hey, remember that car that you test drove a couple months ago? Well, it's outside. Yeah.
Amazing. Let's talk about the eCrew family.
Okay.
What do young women say to you when they reach out to you? I got to imagine it's an enormous outpouring of support that you get, and questions, and how can I do what you're doing, and you're a role model for me. I'm sure it's all the above, right?
Yeah, it's more than just women too. It'll always be a weird thing for me to hear that I inspire people and to do more, but I'll always be humbled by that.
Yeah.
Speechless is probably the word, 'cause I never thought that I would be in this position.
What's been the most surprising element, I guess, of creating the channel and the following that has swirled around you? What surprised you the most?
How many people genuinely, I guess, care about me, because there was one point where I was in such a dark time in my life, and I had the friends that were close to me, but never I just have this incredible fan base that is so supportive and knows me honestly sometimes better than I even know myself. And to be able to be an inspiration to people and have people reach out to me and tell me that, um, you know, their significant other was in the hospital in order to get through that pain. They were watching my videos. It really is unbelievable. It leaves me speechless a lot sometimes.
Wonderful. Let's talk about the acting side of it. You've had the chance to be in the Netflix series Fastest Car
Yeah.
as a drifter and not a drag racer. What was that like?
That was an unbelievable opportunity. And I am so, so thankful of everyone in that crew and the other fellow drivers that I got to do my episode with. And it was such a welcoming experience, and for them to be interested in me telling my story and going out there. And that is definitely what inspired me to start getting more into drag racing. I had my LSS 14, and someone had connected me to do this show. And I mean, let's be honest, at the time it was a stock bottom end LS, and we had, my friends and I had thrown on heads in a cam like 2 nights before to try to hope that I would stand a chance against like these 1,000 horsepower cars. And I was stoked that like I was able to jump off the line. I was the quickest off the line, but then after that, it was no surprise that I had just gotten taken. But everyone was awesome to work with, and I realized that maybe the drift car wasn't the best car to turn into a drag car. That's actually what inspired the '79 Buick Regal build. That was my grandma's car, and brought that back to life. And that was the drag car until I eventually picked up the C8, and I've just kind of gone down this rabbit hole of drag racing since.
And the C8, it had to be an incredible feeling at the
Oh
time,
yeah.
breaking the record, right?
When I bought that car, there's video of it somewhere. I said I was going to leave it stock. I never, I believed it when I said it too, that I wasn't going to modify this car. And I bought it as a customer. 2 years ago, I was calling dealerships trying to just get my name on the wait list for one. And I had no idea, Chevrolet had no idea what I was going to do with this car. I know they believed in me from the beginning, but it was very unreal. And when I bought that car initially, um, I drove straight from Kentucky to the West Coast and ended up stopping in Texas on the way to put a nitrous bottle on the car, go to the drag strip to
Wow.
see if we could break what was the record at the time, which was actually really tangible because I'd gotten one of the first cars in America. Um, and we didn't break the record. We were like a few tenths of a second off, but I just got hooked. And I was like, all right, what are we doing next? We're going to twin turbo this car. We're going to try to figure out a tuning solution. And we're going to go out there. We're going to keep pushing. And we ended down this rabbit hole of C8 Corvette and constantly trying to push the boundaries of this car with an encrypted ECU that you can't tune, and trying to, find ways to trick the sensors and make the car happy. And yeah, I got a lot of people were stoked I actually kept the car because a lot of YouTubers ended up, and builders in general ended up selling the car because it was locked. So I know I stuck with it. It's one of my favorite cars today, and we're still working on going back out there. Recently, the record, I had held the record for about 6 months. Someone recently had taken that from me, and I'm stoked for it because I was like, man, it's fun when there's friendly competition. I don't see this as cutthroat. We're behind the scenes. We're all helping one another. Like, oh, you did this. Well, we did this. And some people find different tuning solutions that work for them. And we're constantly in the background trying to help one another. So when someone else breaks the record, it's like awesome because now we know that the platform's even more capable than what we thought it was, which only continues to push and drive us to try to get better and do better.
The automotive world in that space is such an evolutionary thing, right? You never stop learning what you can do to these
Yeah.
products. And I'm guessing that's something you didn't anticipate when you first got into it.
Not at all. And a lot of people tell me they're surprised, will say that I know so much about cars that I do, but I don't feel like I know that much because there's so much out there every day. I'm learning new
So much to learn.
things. There's so much to learn. And I think that's why I've stuck with cars as long as I have, because if I'm not learning, constantly learning, I get bored of things. And there's never been a day where I'm not learning something when I'm working on a car.
Let's talk about the content creation for the channel and a little bit on that. How do you decide? And a lot of YouTubers are very strategic on which cars they buy because they want the most clicks and they have good ROI and things of that nature. How do you decide how you build your content?
I would be lying if I didn't say, back in my mind, I was thinking about whether or not a car would do well.
Sure,
But I think
natural.
more importantly, you have to be passionate about the car. Because if you buy a car and you're just building it to build it because you think it'll do well, people see through that. You have to find that balance of something that the audience is going to, be excited about just as much as you're going to be excited to work on it. And I mean, let's be honest, like, it's going to take hours and hours and so much of your time to build these cars. You got to find something that you love. So if the question was, how do I find it? For me, I'm constantly looking to what I can push the boundaries in. And at the time that was a C8, recently picking up the Mustang. I'm hoping to be doing more with that. I just got the new Bronco in. That was a car I didn't mention.
That's fun.
That I also have. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's funny that now I have a couple Fords, but I'm just waiting for my Z06 allocation to come in so I can start focusing on that again. But yeah, I'm just constantly trying to find something that is new territory, because that's what I love the most about the C8 was I was calling the dealership saying, hey, how do I pull this motor? And they're like, we don't know. We haven't done it before, but we'll print you our service guide on how to do it. And that was fun because it was getting to share something with the world that people hadn't gotten the opportunity to see it. And I'm also learning while I'm doing it.
You have a great relationship with General Motors. You just mentioned it, and I've talked to several GM executives who are very excited about you being affiliated with their brand. Are you getting a lot of inputs from other car companies right now as well?
Inputs how?
In terms of wanting you to work on their vehicles.
Oh, I mean, totally. And
I imagine it feeds on itself here.
It does. I feel like everyone is just super excited to see what I do with everything. I'm sorry, the alarm was just going off in my house. It's good now. Yeah, I mean, I definitely I have an incredible relationship with most every OEM. And what I'm really most appreciative of is that they treat me as an equal, and they see what I'm doing, and everyone is so happy about it, because at the end of the day, not just me, but everyone who's working on these cars is helping to keep this industry alive at such a pivotal time. And yeah, I mean, from General Motors was really the start, but I have incredible relationships with almost every OEM, and yeah, I think at the end of the day, regardless of whose car I'm working on, it feels weird, but people want to see me succeed and be happy, and I'm so incredibly thankful for that. And the automotive industry, because it's just a bunch of people who love what they're doing, and they want to see it live.
Yeah, there's passion and excitement there for sure. What do you think you've learned about the automotive business that you didn't anticipate?
Every year that the answer to that question is going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, 10 years ago, maybe, I mean, a little more now, I'm starting to, time flies. I didn't expect such a supportive industry. Everyone is family to me. And I know that, it's the generic, oh yeah, go to space for family. But sorry, Fast and Furious reference there.
Yeah, right. Another Fast and Furious reference.
But if the question is what did I learn? I learned that it's an industry that is very supportive, that people just want to see others succeed in, which was, at the very, very beginning, it was challenging, and I don't want to pull the mail card at all. But there was a period where I almost had to prove myself before I could earn that respect from others. Whereas, a male counterpart would, start based with people assuming they know what they're talking about, and they could build from there. And over the course of this past decade, I've seen the industry shift so much in such a positive way that makes me so excited, because at the end of the day, the car doesn't know what gender is behind the wheel. They don't know who's working on it. And I try to see I don't push being a female. I want to be treated as an equal, and I want to provide equal opportunities for everyone. And that's definitely the shift I've seen over this past decade.
When we look into the future, what's the dream car What's the dream build car that you really want to work on?
A Ferrari F40.
Oh, okay. All right.
That is my dream car, and I talk about that car all the time. And everyone knows who watches the channel because I want that car so badly. I will not leave it stock. It'll definitely be a fun car. Yes, I will daily drive.
Yes, you will daily. Tell me about the work that you did on the 458.
So the 458 was definitely a huge step for me. Um, I'd always wanted one, and the naturally aspirated flat plane crank high revving motor that it is, I was excited to have the chance to work on it too. Um, that car I took delivery via helicopter of it, and it
As
was
everyone should.
yeah. And it was a lot of fun. Immediately out the gate, I wanted to do this exhaust, specifically this certain design on the car, because I wanted to just open her up, and they rev so high, they scream and they sound so good. So my team and I, we spent, it looks like it was an effortless job on video, but it was over the course of 2-3 days of cutting and measuring and welding, and getting that exhaust system put together. And I'm so happy with it. I call it the one of one Hartford edition because there won't be any more. But and immediately after doing the exhaust, I took the car to LTMW, where I will be these guys over there are putting a Liberty Walk Silhouette GT kit on the car, which was a huge inspiration of why I even got the 458, because of how sexy this kit looks. And I think I'll be one of the first ones to put a set of coilovers on it. Most people who run the kit actually run air ride with it. So I intend to do some track use with her as well as some street driving. And the time when getting her, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do ITBs and velocity stacks and make this like a sick naturally aspirated build. And the more I didn't do it, the more I was like, no, let's let's heal a little bit.
You mentioned the team, and you've actually mentioned the team in other interviews too. Tell me a little bit about the team that you have around you.
So I have, man, it started with I guess, yeah, it's gonna start where it started with me, where I was going in the garage. And as the thing with YouTube is, you need to see like almost an unrealistic progression on something, because or else people just go in their backyards and see the fact that sorry, no shots fired, but a lot of project cars are probably still sitting on jack stands. So to be able to create eventful episodes with a lot of progress, obviously I had to scale, with more views and more inquiries and all that stuff. So I have my best friend Sean, who helps a lot with you know back end inquiries and stuff like that. And then after 250 episodes, I got an editor. His name is James, and he crushes it. And then I ended up meeting Sandy, who we work hand in hand to get these builds done. And Sandy is, I call him a wizard, because it is incredible, his wealth of knowledge as well, and how quickly he's able to do stuff. And he comes from the off-road space. So he's able to bring in this different point of view and set of expertise that, it's not a space that I came from. And, on the day-to-day, it's Sandy and me working on the cars. And, we've since grown into, I have my talent manager, Alex Shakarchian. I have, I'm bringing on a videographer soon in this coming year. I have obviously Rachel and Mike and Grace over at PR Machine, who are helping with inquiries, and helping with the PR side of things. And I have a fulfillment center in Temecula. Jessica, everyone over there is super awesome, and they handle the merchandise.
You have I was going to say you have merchandise.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm guessing when you were with the B Crew in Indiana, you weren't thinking about the merchandise that was going to have your name on it.
No, not not at all. And yeah, so I have merchandise currently, the Hartford Project, and I donate a percentage of the proceeds to different nonprofit organizations that bring awareness to mental health, domestic abuse, and different issues like that. My hope is to eventually step that in, doing free race events, and also trying to bring awareness more, not only in the space, but welcoming other people into the space to help them find a hobby and a passion that I feel like could help people how it helped me. And also car care. And I work with Protective Film Solutions, where they work on Paganis and Bugattis and all these rare cars that they use the same detail spray on their cars because they're huge fans of it. And I have my own line with them, and there's a lot of different legs of the company at this point that it's really scaled to something that I'm proud of today.
No kidding. What advice would you give to somebody who is starting out in the space? What would you say now, looking back?
Honestly, I would say it's not too late. I hear so often people like, oh man, I really wish and I assume we're talking about YouTube Automotive when
Yes.
you say this space
Yeah.
specifically. I would tell people it's not too late. A lot of people say, oh, I wish I was on YouTube 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago. I'm like, but you're going to be saying that, 10 years from now if you don't get started. And how are you going to know that it didn't work if you didn't try? And in terms of advice for actually doing it, be consistent. Stick to a schedule if you can. If that's 1 video a week, 2 video a week, even if you're going to do once a month, the more you post, the easier it is to grow. Do something you're passionate about. And for me personally, I never like to end an episode on something unfinished. If I say at the beginning, we're going to pull this motor, I don't care how many days it takes. I'll spend 15 hours a day at the garage pulling the motor until the motor's pulled, so that we can give people who are watching exactly what I promised in the beginning, for like a well-rounded episode, having a beginning, a middle, and end. And I could talk forever.
And I would imagine you would say that a lot of people talk about the notion of an overnight success, but an overnight success is just a series of doing things every day or every night leading up to that.
It takes about 10 years to be an overnight success.
Exactly. What's next? What's your goal in the next 5 years? What do you want to, if we have this interview in 2027, sounds awfully futuristic.
I can't believe that's 5 years right now.
Right. 2030, you and I are sitting down and we're saying, here's what you've done over the course of the next or of the last 7 years. What would that look like?
I'm going to say not what I want it to look like, because I'm very big on positive, like in affirmations, and you have to be the first person to believe in yourself before anything else. I believe another leg under the Hartford Enterprises umbrella will be a production company, and I will have just starred in what is the next Fast and Furious franchise, to give an example, but it'll be a female-led car series, and on top of that, continuing to build cars. And I can't say what cars will be out in that year. I do feel like we're in a very pivotal time where electric is starting to be more prevalent, and they are talking about mandating them, and a lot of manufacturers are leaving gasoline powered engines by 2035. And I think no matter what type of engine it is, I'm going to constantly be pushing the boundaries and the limits of these chassis and seeing how far we can go with them. So on top of the acting career I dream of, still working on cars and still sharing that with the audience. So
you do want to get back into the acting side of things?
Oh, absolutely. I would say I'm still doing it. I just had a small role in a California Christmas that came out a couple weeks ago, that I was super excited about.
In the California Christmas?
A California Christmas, yeah.
Okay, what is that?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's the sequel to California Christmas from last year. It was #1 in the US for a few weeks running, and it's a very sweet story, very heartwarming rom-com. And yeah, funny enough, one of the producers on that project is a big car person himself, so we're constantly talking to one another.
Are you, speaking of Netflix, are you a fan of Drive to Survive? We've had a couple of those guys on the show.
Yeah, I wish I started watching it sooner than I did. I'm not fully caught up yet, but I'm in the thick of it, and I do love that series. I'm a sucker for most anything car related. So my dream and my goal is to bring more car based series and films into entertainment.
Are you a Max or a Lewis fan?
I'm a little.
You're probably a fan of everybody, I'm sure.
I'm a fan of everyone. It's very controversial how the series ended. I say series,
Season.
Season. We're talking television. I'm getting stuck in my head about that already. But definitely controversial. I love Lewis, and a lot of people are wanted to see someone else win, and I feel like it was well deserved at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. When we think about where you are today, and you think about the B Crew back in Indiana, which, by the way, are you still in touch with those guys?
I am. So Booch actually was one who was with me to help surprising my mom with a car a few weeks ago.
Wonderful. You think about that. You think about where you are today. You think about YouTube, being a YouTuber, being influential, having car companies knock on your door. Do you ever stop and think for a moment and go, gosh, how the hell did I end up here?
All the time. I don't feel like I don't deserve to be where I am, but there's always going to be in the back of my mind. People talk about what's the word? Imposter syndrome a little bit, because I feel like I'm just a kid working on cars in a garage and filming it. And then next thing I know, I'm in the national commercial that's airing on the World Series for the new Z06, and I'm on a panel with the chief engineer of Corvette and Justin Bell and all these incredible people, and I'm just up there, and they have me in the center of everyone, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel surrounded by incredibly inspiring legends who have such a resume around me. But I just have to remember that I am where I deserve to be, and I put in the work, and in a way I have a resume too with everything we've been able to accomplish. So it blows my mind having the billboard on Sunset Boulevard after breaking the world record with Moto Oils was just crazy, and yeah, it's unbelievable sometimes.
Well, God bless YouTube. I talked to Rob Dickinson, who is the founder of Singer Automotive, which does a lot of modifications to 911s.
Yeah.
And he's the former lead singer of a British band from the 90s called Catherine Wheel. And he said to me, the greatest thing that's happened to him recently, not the modification of the 911s that everybody's doing around the world with his company,
what he's famous for,
but the fact that YouTuber Billie Eilish, just that singer, covered one of his songs recently. And he thought, I've arrived. I've absolutely arrived. Cultural impact. The cultural circle is complete. You, Emelia, are setting your own cultural path, aren't you? You're having an impact on culture.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It feels weird to say, but I'm just happy if I'm able to leave. Lately what's been on my mind is what kind of legacy I'm going to leave behind. So yeah, thank you. I don't know. It's pretty crazy.
Well, here's the thing. I'll finish it off by saying I'm stoked that we had this interview. So thank you very much.
Me too. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on Cars and Culture.
Pleasure. Of course.
Thank you.
The automobile is one of the most important inventions that revolutionized the modern world. In America, the rich history of car culture runs deep as technology continues to shape the future of the industry. Jason Stein,
former publisher of Automotive News,
is here to share the stories of people passionate about cars, from industry leaders and innovators to car-obsessed celebrities. Buckle up as Jason takes you inside the boardroom, onto the track, and around the bend on Cars and Culture on Sirius XM Business Radio.